As expected, the President of the United States has gone on the attack against those who gave a thumbs down to what he now calls BBB. Yeah, the President of the United States just nicknamed his budget cut bill BBB.
Wait, what? Big Black Booty?
Wow, even for you that's low. Anyway, in his own translation, BBB stands for Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, I heard that, but why is my head still ringing with Big Black Booty?
You know what? Well, he sent out this post on his Truth Social, and I read, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump. Rand votes no on everything, but never has any practical or constructive ideas. His ideas are actually crazy losers. The people of Kentucky can't stand him. This is a big growth bill. Rand Paul has very little understanding of the BBB, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The BBB is a big winner.
I told you, the Big Black Booty always wins.
No, man, stop cutting me off. It's Big Beautiful Bill. Anyway, I digress. Donald Trump has turned public shaming, ridicule, and intimidation into a political art form, especially when aimed at fellow Republicans who dare to defy him. Whether it's voting against his preferred bills, challenging his narrative, or clinging stubbornly to constitutional principles, how quaint. The dissent is often met with a social media flamethrower or the looming threat of a primary challenger. Just ask John McCain, mocked for keeping the ACA alive with a single thumbs down, or Mitt Romney, who was branded a traitor for voting to convict Trump during impeachment. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, banished for having the audacity to investigate January 6th. And Ron DeSantis, once endorsed, found himself in the crosshairs, apparently for the crime of wanting a promotion. In Trump's world, ideological diversity in the GOP isn't a feature, it's a fireable offense. This loyalty-first approach turns Congress from a co-equal branch of government into a glorified fan club. Lawmakers are supposed to legislate, conduct oversight, and uphold checks and balances, not audition for retweets. Blind allegiance, especially when driven by fear of being primaried, is the antithesis of conservatism, which traditionally champions intellectual debate and institutional integrity. Political survival at the expense of the national interest is a bad trade, no matter how many likes it gets. If the GOP wants to remain a serious political party rather than a personality cult, it needs to grow a collective spine, push back, legislate independently, and remind voters that governing is not about passing a loyalty test, but about upholding an oath. Otherwise, the next time Congress bows to a tweet, it may find itself legislating from irrelevance. Well, not every GOP member in Congress seems all that eager to protect people's welfare or well-being. Take this one, for instance. Here's Roger Marshall, boldly declaring on Fox News, Medicaid cuts are going to strengthen Medicaid.
Look, I'm still remain optimistic. Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, all those people, Mike Lee and I share the same goal. On the other hand, as you mentioned, we got folks that are afraid of the small Medicaid cuts that we made already. Medicaid cuts that are going to strengthen Medicaid and save it for those who need it the most.
Excuse me, strengthen it by chopping its legs off. Are you kidding me? You folks are cutting it. Doesn't that simply mean dead and buried? At this point, they genuinely seem to believe that every American is a MAGA minion. Why not say something completely absurd and assume the whole country will just nod along like a crowd of hypnotized bobbleheads? Either they're too cowardly to speak out against Trump, or they're just plain wicked. And shockingly, I've come to realize that wickedness in this country spreads faster than goodwill at a free buffet. How can anyone with a functioning conscience justify ripping away care from the elderly or children? What kind of society thrives on cruelty? And then there's this already viral video from Congress, where Senator Chris Murphy absolutely shreds Education Secretary Linda McMahon for slashing funding for mental health counselors in schools.
Factors in making this decision. But did you worry about what your decision would do to these kids where you've ripped away their counselors and social workers literally in the middle of the program. Do you worry about what's going to happen to those kids in Northwest Connecticut and kids all across the country who have lost access to their trusted adults?
I certainly worry about mental health for children and adults all across the country. I certainly do.
I guess I'm asking specific. You must have weighed this. I assume you weighed this when you made this extraordinary decision to shut down $1 billion worth of mental health programming for kids. Did you worry about what you would do to those specific kids?
Well, what we have to do, I think, and that's what our simplified funding program is going to do, is to put programs into a single grant that's going to the states to be determined how that money can be best used.
But how did you weigh the impact? I'm asking about this specific decision. How did you weigh the impact that, again, these kids in Northwest Connecticut, they literally say, this adult is the most important adult in my life. And you made a decision to shut down that program. And this can be replicated all over the country. How did you weigh the impact on those kids? It's a really cruel thing to do to those kids. So did you think about the impact on those kids?
Well, I certainly can't evaluate every particular program in every school district across the state. There are some areas that need mental health more than there are others. And there were programs in the mental health program that did deal with DEI and with gender issues, et cetera. And it wasn't just about the kind of things that you're talking about. So in totality, as we look at mental health grants across the country, we have to make sure that those programs are being used to serve best in those communities. Yeah. So, therefore, a governor or a principal or a state superintendent would have the best information relative to what is needed in that particular state.
Yeah, we know what we need in Northwest Connecticut, and what we need is for the federal government not to rip funding away from these kids in need in the middle of the service program.
The shared wickedness of this administration is outstanding. And the delusion of these congressmen rallying behind something as atrocious as this so-called big, beautiful bill is truly unbelievable. As for Trump's next move, who knows? But wouldn't it be something if he tried to overthrow the king from Kentucky? Rand Paul won re-election to the Senate in 2022 with over 61% of the vote, a landslide in bluegrass terms. He enjoys solid support among conservative voters and has consistently ruled his Kentucky fiefdom with a libertarian crown. But fingers crossed, we just might get the battle of the royals. Trump versus Beckham, Rand Paul for the Kentucky throne. Long live the drama. All right, friends, here's the deal. We need your support to level up our game. How can you help? Simple. Like, share, and drop a comment. Shower us with your love, your applause, or even your brutally honest displeasure. We can take it, we promise. Your feedback fuels us, even if it stings a little. And before you dash off, go ahead and smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us everywhere: Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Heck, if you're feeling retro, send us a carrier pigeon or a smoke signal. Stay awesome, stay witty, and we'll see you next time.